Eric, I'm going to go deep, I'm warning you, because I got you here. Usually I help him answer a lot of questions that are posed to him. And this time, I'm going to try to just draw it all out of him. So let's see how that works. The first question, of course, on everybody's mind in a situation like this, besides why do they say memoir now instead of autobiography, and how come that keeps going back and forth, but why? What made you decide to write a book about you?
Well, really, I was never going to do this. It was pressure from everybody, from publishers to acquaintances to reporters to journalists to friends to family. Everybody saying, "When are you going to write your biography?" "Oh, I'm not going to write a biography. I don't really, my whole life is kind of public. What am I going to write it down for?" And they're like, "No, you have to write a book." I'm like, so silly. And so I started reading all the biographies. And they're all the same format, they're all the hard childhood, the abuse or the neglect, whatever it is, and then the recovery and blah, 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 and the heroic arrival at stardom and or fame and or fortune, and then you become a nice person. And I found it all kind of always the same. Even in the good biographies, it was always that format. And I didn't want to do that because I'm not that, and if anything, I'm just odd. So like knowing that, I never wanted to write one, but everybody pressured me, and so I finally decided it might be fun, and I had help because I have a wife who I lean on a lot, and I like her, and she's smarter than me, so I go to her like book reports. "How's this chapter?" She reads it and she gives me notes, and I go back and she says stuff like, "You're embellishing." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "It didn't happen quite like that." I'm like, "Well, how did it happen like this?" "Oh, but I have to say that?" "Yes, that's how it happened." "Oh, okay." So it was a back and forth like a child and a teacher, and so that's how I wrote my biography, and I tried not to make it silly, and tried to make it quietly, calmly poignant about my life.
So you had other help too.
I also had Sam. Well, Sam was kind of the driving force for keeping it straight. Like I have all these facts, all these events, and Sam lines it up into a story. And yeah.
Sam Cautionary is an incredible genius writer and author of all different kinds of things, and he worked with us with Eric, with us on the book, and he's amazing, and it wouldn't be the book it is without him. That's the truth. Now, you said it was pressure. I do remember you at your desk writing your autobiography way before any of this. What was that? Was that just for therapy? Was that just you wanted to make notes of your life?
No, that was exactly just to see what it felt like.
Okay.
That's all it was. It was mental masturbation on paper.
And I also remember that in that kind of private draft, some of it seemed, and I think everyone can relate to this, some of it seemed like a desire to set the record straight, to assign a little blame here and there, to say that some of the people who've been perceived as the good guys in your life weren't such good guys, some who've been perceived as the bad guys weren't such bad guys. It seemed like a personal journey, something you needed to do for yourself and to look at. Would you agree with me there?
I need an interviewer who knows less.
Sorry, you're out of luck. An interviewer needs less. That was good.
If you're going to write anything down, it's going to be around a long time after you. Like at least the characters that I play aren't me, so I have that excuse. Well, that's not me. How'd you do that? It's not me. But when you write a biography, you can't mess around because you're going to get busted. And I don't want to get busted over some ridiculous detail. So I was very careful in my honesty in that I'm not that kind of dramatic honesty. And guess what happened then? I don't do that. But I just want you to know who I am, I think, in a way that's not dramatic and it's not bragatory and it's not, yeah, bragatory is a good word.
And you guys will have to let us know when you finally read or listen to the book, because there's an audio version too.
Yeah, the audio version is fun to do. It's fun to read your own book.
Really? That's interesting that you
Yeah,
thought that was fun. I can imagine, well, not just imagine, I remember wanting to rewrite a lot of stuff while we were in that process. Because, you know how it is. Every day, it can be 24 hours later and you would have done things differently 24 hours ago. And so when you're writing a book and it takes a few years, you're kind of afraid to look at chapter 1 because you're kind of like, well, hold on, page 1 rewrite. It's never finished. It never has that feeling of being completely done. I'm going to ask you a question which we'll get back to again later, but it's just something to think about. When you said about many memoirs have that formula of a difficult childhood,
Basically
and then
all
recovery.
of them. Basically
Okay.
every one of them.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
Do you think there's such thing as recovering from a difficult or even abusive childhood?
Well, that's kind of my question in my book about me, Mrs. Roberts.
Oh, I
And,
had no idea. Okay, all right.
and
It's a worthy question, and
Do you have to have all that compression and destruction to create a diamond? And apparently you do. I would like to think you don't, but apparently you do.
that's been studied a lot. Alice Miller wrote something called The Untouched Keys, and it was an examination of whether you can get genius, artistic genius or other genius, from people who have not had major struggles. Why do some people go in the direction of becoming serial killers and some people go in the direction of becoming noted artists? And there doesn't seem to be a confirmed answer, but we are affected by what happens to us. And there's management of it, and there's processing, but it never goes away. It's always present. And I think that that's clear in the book, and even in the tell me if you corroborate this, Eric, even in the desire to fabricate some things or kind of shift the focus, some of it's just really hard to look at. And the way we see the world, we're fascinated by everybody. So you don't have to be a known person to make an interesting story about yourself. And you kind of feel a sense of shame exploiting the fact that you're known. But since you're known, there's a lot said about you, and there is a desire sometimes.
I told her that.
Oh, okay. There are many stories that have been told about Eric and his family that have just been completely wrong and untrue. Do you feel like you managed to address some of those in the book?
Well, what I was able to address is my own voice, and as opposed to the voice of Eric Roberts, whatever that is. And but I got to speak in my own voice, in my own way, in my own dialect, and not to advertise it like I'm advertising you, but just but I kept it lined up, and I kept it not blamey because of you.
So Eric, do you think this book would have been, we've read a lot of memoirs, and in a lot of cases, the family of origin of the people writing the memoir are gone, they've passed on. And it's not a coincidence that the time chosen to write the memoir is after they're gone. What was your fear level in terms of writing stories about people who are still here and may see things, family things and stuff differently?
Well, that's a huge question, Mrs. Roberts. You always, or at least I always thought every sentence I wrote, how's it going to be perceived through other eyes and other understandings. And because you have to, especially when you're not young anymore. I'm not 35. I'm not 45. I'm not 55. And when you realize that, and you accept that, you realize the only other thing besides honesty is kindness. And that's really all there is to all of it. To your work, to your relationships. It's just honesty and kindness. And if you can always adhere to those two things, you're gonna go to bed happy every night. And I didn't go to bed happy ever until I met my wife, and she taught me that. And so we bond over that every day. I mean, every day.
Jumping ahead a little bit, and then we're going to go back. But we've said a lot about if there's a sequel to the book, we're going to start with what show did you just finish doing?
Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. And compared to some of the things in your book where you talk about being kind of an uncomfortable person to be around, do you feel that kindness thing really kicked in during your couple of months on Dancing with the Stars, and that you were consistently warm and affectionate and just a whole other guy?
Let me give you guys a little backstory, before I answer your question. The backstory is this. When my wife met me, we'd known each other a while, and she said, "You've got to start talking to people." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You don't speak to people." I said, "Well, what do I have to say to them except hi?" She says, "No, you have to talk to people. You have to treat people like they're people, like they have a life that you're interested in and you're kind and interested. You have to be nice to people." I said, "I'm not bad." "Yes, you are, because you just ignore them." I said, "Well, I'm just being what I think is nice. I treat others like I want to be treated." And she goes, "No, you can't be doing that." She kind of reparented me. I raised myself, so she kind of reparented me and told me how to be social. I never, what do I know how to do that? I didn't. I had no idea. But she taught me how to do that. And it was kind of teaching a child how to be a grown-up. By the time I get to like Dancing with the Stars, first of all, this setup is unbelievable. They have a crew of over 200 people, and every one of them is a professional expert at their job, and they're nice to you. And it's amazing. The whole setup is, and it runs like clockwork, and it runs like a machine, and if you behave, you're treated like a king. And if you don't, you're treated like something that should be put to the side, and you're just kind of worked around. It's amazing. And they have no problems with anybody ever, no matter what the problem is, because they're all so professional. And it was the greatest working experience maybe of my life. And if I could just dance, it'd be different.
Yeah, it's true that Eric, he had an inability to just do the regular responses, like to nod and acknowledge when somebody's talking to you. So there was just like this blank look, and people get more and more and more uncomfortable. And he played characters that put you on edge. And so you'd be in a regular conversation about your dog or something. I mean, things he loves. And he just would be staring blankly. And I actually read a book about it. People who just don't get the social cues. And if someone did that to him, he'd get very insecure and sad and upset. But he didn't even know that he was doing it.
No, but let me tell you how she taught me. She says, like a child, is like active listening, Eric. It's like when something is good, you nod and you smile. It's good. It's good. If something's bad, you shake your arm. It's bad. Yeah. This is active listening, like a child. Do you understand me? Yeah. Well, I didn't pay attention. Active listening. Okay. Yeah, I get that.
You did these amazing films. You got very mixed reviews personally. There's people who love you and there's people who just kind of don't get you. Do you think you were able to engage that way back in those days, or that you were just such a fabulous actor that people sort of said, well, he can just do that, but we love what he does with the role?
Well, I came into fame at the end of an era when if you were an actor, you were everything. To be a good actor was to be a minor god. And if you're considered one of the brandos of your generation, you were it. And I was one of those guys. And I thought it was cool. And I had a good time being one of those guys. And I did good work and was proud of the work. I'm still proud of my. I love working like I love her. I just love my work. And yeah, I knew I was doing good work. I knew I was doing good work with good people. And even when I wasn't, I was in it for the being in it. I just loved it, and I still do.
Do you feel that our industry has changed in terms of that kind of pass to do whatever if you were a brilliant actor, and that now you kind of have to be a decent human being also?
Well, that's another subject. It's gone from only experts were allowed to be in the industry, and only experts of the experts were allowed to be in charge in the industry. So you had these fabulous people always, and they always knew more than you would ever know about their department. And it was like being invited into a prestigious team of experts. And if you're chosen as an actor to be in a movie, you're invited. Okay, I'm in this team that's really experts, and they're cool. And we're making this movie about whatever it is. And it was just. It was a great feeling, and you were part of something special, something unique, something only experts in that field can do, and it was cool. And now they flip a switch, they have autofocus, they hire kids who don't know anything about movies, who aren't like movie geeks like we were, knowing every black and white movie Alfred Hitchcock ever made. They don't know any of that. And they don't care. It's the sad part of it. It's like, yeah, so. And they don't love the movies for the art of the film, because there is no film, first of all. And the art's kind of gone by the wayside. And then now it's just quantity, not quality. And if you have quantity, you're going to do okay, buddy. So it's a whole different point of view. It's a whole different production. And it's a whole different result.
I remember, and tell me what you think about this, Eric. I think that it's true that if you were a public figure, you were so revered because not everybody could be a public figure. Now everybody can. I mean, there's YouTube. You can become an influencer for opening up Christmas presents, and it doesn't even matter what's in them or who you are. But I do remember when I did a show called You Again with Jack Klugman and John Stamos, which was taken from a British show called Home to Roost. When they did the British production, the actors were taken out of London, and they were in the countryside where there was no distraction. They were paid a wage, but it was just a wage, same as theater actors there. Nobody was getting rich, and that was your job. And I remember thinking that was really refreshing. There was something better about it. And now we've sort of accidentally stumbled into that same place because nobody has any money anymore. And it's really hard to make money doing shows. And so now it's a little bit different. It's a job. But we haven't quite figured out how to do it. We're still kind of hanging on to the past, and we don't know what the future looks like. Where do you stand on that in terms of being a working actor, none of the indulgence anymore? Does that make you feel like a has-been or, yesterday's news, or is it kind of refreshing? What's your feeling about that?
Well, being me, I'm very lucky. I know everything about everything on a film set. I know everybody's job, everybody's bad part of the job, good part of the job. I know everything. So I can walk on a set and look at it and know the attitude and know if it's going well. I just know. Now it's all about one guy's mood, and that's the director, and if he's done his homework. And in the old days, it was about as if each department had done their homework, and you brought it all together, you made magic. Now it's not that way. Now you have a director who's basically making a home movie, because they don't have any film to take care of. They just have this instant gratification stuff that looks like a home movie. It looks like Super 8. It looks bad, but we're all used to it now, so we accept it. But it's another world of a compromise. And I've just learned to roll with the punches because I'm not the boss, and I never set out to be the boss. I just wanted to be an actor. And they let me act almost every day. So I have no complaints.
Would you, Eric, knowing that you initially wanted the book to be, you would have been happy to not speak on anyone's behalf in the book, to not include your family of origin, to not evoke any conversations or speculation about all those relationships, and have it be more of kind of an actor's working manual, kind of for actors and for other people who are curious about those kind of things. Some stories from sets, but no incrimination of anybody. And of course, nobody would let us do that, basically. What do you feel about the fact that a lot of the things that have been pulled from the book, that probably you guys have read as like headlines or pull quotes or whatever, have been, of course, about your criticism of one of your sister's movies, some other things like that really, there's a lot that I think Eric regretted even saying, because we all say stuff all day long.
Well, it was
you
also
don't want it to be
stuff
indelible.
said
What do you feel about
conversationally, like they don't point out the fact that around that semi-negative criticism about Steel Magnolias was a plethora of compliments. They don't say that.
Right.
They just say the one negative thing, and the one negative thing stands out as the thing. I don't really care, but other people do, and they make me feel bad about it. Don't you feel bad? You made your sister feel so bad. My sister is every bit as a big a man as I am, and she can take it, and she's fine with it. And but, everything is distorted when you put it in print. And especially if you're famous, it all becomes like important suddenly. It's not really that important. And it's just information.
Did you feel like you were walking on eggshells when you were writing the book? And
I went out of my way not to go through that with myself. I just wrote it. And then, of course, Sam would say to me, do you really want to say this? And I would say, no, I guess you're right, Sam. Good, Eric. Do you really want to say this? Yeah, well, let's say it differently, because that's just mean, Eric. Oh, thanks, Sam. Well, I should say. And we would talk about it. So Sam took really good care of me. In that, I'm like a bull in a china shop. Let's do this. And Sam goes, no, can't do that today. And so I'd follow Sam. And I also never wrote a book, and I also never wrote a book about myself. It's a weird trip to write a book about yourself, because you have to be careful. You don't want to tell the truth almost ever.
That's what I was going to ask. I think, especially nowadays, when the things that seem to make people successful, at least for a minute, are often really terrible things. I mean, they're really either truths revealed that are just more than we can take, or else saying something horrible about someone else. The whole Sex and the City thing, and did they hate each other at the end, and why didn't Kim come back? All of that, people were really hungry for it. And I think all of us feel that we have landmines in our lives, just, little secrets that if just the truth were told, it would just get so big that you could barely manage it. And I think that that's what Eric's talking about when he says how it was kind of scary writing a book, because all you have to do is say one sentence and it can be something that you regret, that really kind of ruins your life for years, if not forever. I just wonder, it's been said of you that you have no filter. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Are you aware of that being said of you?
Yeah.
What do you make of that comment?
Well,
do you know what a filter is? What's a filter?
I was going to answer the question.
You were going to ask me what a filter is?
I was going to answer the question.
Go ahead and answer.
Fuck you.
I don't know if you can say that here. Can we say that here?
I suppose I have no filter. I don't mean not to have a filter. It's not grandstanding. I suppose why I have no filter sometimes is what makes me pursue my vocation. I like that envelope pushing.
Yeah, the rawness. Yeah, that's kind of true. It is hard to separate the things. You don't. I mean, my mom said to me once, and she was a writer, and well, you know a little bit about her.
No, wait a minute. Her mom was an extraordinary actor, an extraordinary writer, an extraordinary director, an extraordinary human, an extraordinary speechwriter for all kinds of big people like Ted Kennedy. She was a big deal, really cool lady with a great show called Connect the Dots on
KPFK.
Yeah, KPFK. Go ahead.
But she was a comedy writer and she was a director, but she knew our business. And she said to me one day, I was complaining about Eric, and she said, "Darling, you married an actor, you cannot expect him to grow up to be a human being." And I was able to say that to him right then. I mean, it wasn't even behind his back. Did you understand what that meant? What she meant by
that was the funniest thing I ever heard about myself. Yeah. I loved her mother.
What would you say is the percentage in the book of stuff that is absolutely factually, scientifically true, and stuff that's just perception?
No, because of my wife and Sam, it's 100% not bullshit. None of it. None, not a word. Now, there's some stuff I would have in the book that I was not allowed to put in the book.
We'll need a second book for that. But now, by the way, because you guys haven't read it yet, so we don't want to give you a laundry list or anything.
Well, let me tell you a story how I look at writing a book about myself feels. They said, "So what do you want to call the book?" I think this is very funny. Please give me feedback on this. Okay, Mr. Roberts, what do you want to call the book? Julia Roberts' brother, Emma Roberts' dad. And they said no. Where's your humor, guys? They're like, no, that looks needy. Needy?
Needy. It looks like a lawsuit.
That's the wife.
Needy.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, of course, it's catchy, and it's very
so
tempting
cool.
to do that.
On the front, Julia Roberts' brother. On the back, Emma Roberts' dad.
Well, that's
so
because
cool.
You wanted to. That's what I mean about no filter, and because he was basically wanting to say what everybody was thinking anyway. So he just thought, let's just cut to it.
Let's cut to it.
We'll just acknowledge it. We didn't do that, clearly. But Eric does. There are a few things in the book, some of which were corrected in the audio, which I know our literary agent is here, which is a little different from the written one.
Yeah, we went wild in the audio room. Boy, are they going to hate us.
We were told we weren't allowed to do that, but then the director told us we could. So we did.
But
it was just, there was a few things. There was one thing where they confused, in the book, they confused Eric's grandfather for his father. Is that
like
right?
in the first 2 pages, it describes my father as having been a semi-pro football player. That was my mother's father. My dad was a big sissy. He would never play football.
He didn't let you play football either, right?
Yeah.
Not that you're a good watcher of football.
I love pro football.
Okay, was there anything really striking that you feel like you left out that you want to get to, that you want to use your public forum to talk about? No,
I just when people read this book, I want them to. I commit a crime in this book that I talk about, a felony, like huge robbery, and it's in the book, and
you don't want to go to jail.
From that, I want everybody to always know when you hear about a crime, know that the criminal isn't necessarily a bad guy. always try to find out all the facts before you, because if you just get the facts on that crime in there, it was a bad thing. But if you know why it happened, it's understandable.
In some cases, I think that's true. I also think that's just true about, we've discussed this a lot, and I think Eric lives his life this way. Just because something's against the law doesn't mean it's bad. There are a lot of laws that are bad. There are a lot of things that should not be against the law, worldwide, obviously. I'm not sure that you ever adhered really to any rules. As you said, you raised yourself, basically. And do you think that kind of little lawlessness in you has contributed to your freedom as an actor, and also is partly a result of having parents who just didn't know what they were doing at the time you were born? Maybe later, but at the time you were born, not really.
Well, to answer that question, of many questions, imaginary friends, you got me through everything. And without them, I could not have survived, because they're my unconscious mind taking care of me. And I would ask them, what do I do? Blah, blah, have a conversation with them. And they would tell me, but it's me talking to myself. But because they were imaginary friends, they were outside me, and they were helping. And without them, I would not have survived. That's part of raising myself. I had to have those friends. I had to have those imaginary friends. And yeah, if you're not broken to your bone marrow, you can survive anything and make it okay. And I'm not the nth degree example of that, but I know about a little bit of it. And I know people that are the nth degree example of that. And they're artists, because they had to turn it into that. They had to make the ugly pretty, or the ugly usable in a graceful way.
Do you think writing this book, you freely and completely acknowledged your responsibility in certain things that didn't go the way you wanted them to?
The hard part I had with that, with acknowledging my own misgivings, were my drug abuse. Because when I started writing it, I realized how excessive and often it was. I didn't realize that until I started writing it. And then it gets me so upset, because I think of all the other people involved. And then again, and again, and again, and again, and again. So many agains, you don't have, you can't track of the agains. There's so many of them. And you take yourself back there, and you realize back then you thought, I'm okay. You were not. And so that was the hard part of writing the book, being honest about that. Being honest not to the book so much as through the book to myself, about myself. Really disliking myself very much and feeling very disappointed. I mean, when you really understand and do not disregard your misgivings, you wonder if you can get through them. But the other side of that is wondering how anybody else got through you. How'd they survive it? And yeah, you have to do unto others. Always.
Yeah. I think we all experience this, where all anybody really needs to hear from anybody else, parents, friends, family, is, wow, that must have been really hard for you. This thing that I put you through must have been really hard. But that's a really hard thing for any of us to say, and often it's very fleeting. Like, I've heard Eric say that before, and then if I will mention it again to him, suddenly all the defenses are back. and all the excuses and all the leave me alone and you know, that kind of switching of roles, like don't put me through this. And I think that's just human. It's just hard when you deal with so many new people. Every production is full of new people, and it's a very intimate working situation, and then it's over. But during those times, you know, it's very unforgiving in a lot of ways. But one question that I think we all have about artists and actors, so many times the life is just dreamy. It's amazing. It's full of money that gives you freedom to help people and have, you know, you have resources. It's full of, you can make your job choices. It's an amazing life. And then people in this profession are fraught with depression and anger and all kinds of unhappiness.
But they arrive that way.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know. In your opinion, because you know, we have a lot of friends who are doing very, very well, and I think sometimes they come to us because we don't really accept them whining and moaning about stuff, because we're kind of like, hey, you know, there's a lot of suffering going on out there, so you got to figure out a way to get past this. Just go help somebody else. That'll get you out of it. But what do you think that they arrive that way? What do you think? Why is there so often? Because it's really hard to sympathize. Why is there so often those two things going together?
That's a big question with a big answer I do not have for you, wife. But I think that you know, pain begets pain. Everything, you know, begets itself. And I think that when you come from pain, you see pain. It's your drive home. As my favorite writer and shrink once used it, terminology, that we're all in this drive home. We all want to end up back to where we came from because that's what we know best. And my wife's expression. And yeah, the drive home is a big deal for all of us. And I don't think anybody can avoid it. You just have to understand what it is, and you have to confront it. You have to deal with it properly. And you have to be kind to yourself. It's hard. It takes practice.
What would you say is the most surprising Eric that we see? Like, would it be, I'll give you a hint. We were just with them yesterday.
Yeah.
So what would you say is not this guy? Like, couldn't be further from this guy. By the way, Eric thinks that this is a very kind of posy, would you say? It's a great picture, but yeah, thank you. It is a beautiful picture. But
I have since fallen in love with it. I don't like the fact I'm smoking because I have grandchildren and I don't want to see me smoke. But it's a little acrid for my taste. But then as weeks have gone on, I love that picture. Wow. I should look so good. It was a photo session from this guy who says, I want to take some pictures for you. I said, okay, sweet, and that's one of them.
He's a noted photographer and stuff. And we did have concerns about the cigarette, because it's like, who smokes anymore? And also, if you do, you shouldn't. So, you know, and there are the grandkids, and there are boxes of this book in the house. I always turn them over. But yeah, I'll tell you what I'm getting at. Like, Eric is unbelievably playful with the grandkids. You wouldn't even think it's him. I would never have thought, the first few years I knew him, that I'd ever see this side of him. They put makeup on him. They make him act like a dog, a cat. You know, they put him in jail. They're constantly putting him in jail for some reason. He's like,
I'm always under arrest.
Or they make these concoctions to feed him that are things that should not go together. They're all edible. I mean, there's no like soap dish in there. I mean, dish soap in there or anything. But and they're like, here, and then he has to, and they know the difference. They're like, no, don't fake it, and then he'll eat it. I mean, he'll do anything for them, and it's a really beautiful quality. There's certain people, I think, with your pathology, there's certain people who just consistently bring out this calm, open, sweet side. And then there's times that I just am like, I have to get out of here. I can't, you know. So, you know, the things that, you know, couples do this, talking over you when you're right, and he just wants to be wrong and just keeps talking and not listening. I mean, it kind of flips back and forth. And at a certain point in a marriage, you kind of realize this is the person. This is kind of what you get. At what point did you feel like we're just us? We're not really going to change that much. How far into this marriage and this life and this career and this bonus dad and bonus grandpa thing did you realize these are the jokes?
Last night.
Oh, really?
No, that's a funny answer. But really, it was about 12 years in. It was about a dozen years in. I realized, wow, I'm going nowhere. And when you really realize that, I belong to this person. I belong to her. When you know that, emotionally, romantically, intellectually, artistically, she's a great actor. She's one of my favorite actors. And I'm a snob about acting. But yeah, and about a dozen years in, which is over 20 years ago, isn't that wild? But yeah, about a dozen years in, you realize I'm gonna die in this relationship, and it's the greatest feeling there is, because that's everything. It's everything.
There's two things that that I feel like you touch on in the book for sure, but we could go even a little bit further. One is there's something about family. I don't know anybody who isn't estranged or has a hard time with some member of their family. And yet there's this, you can't detach all the way, because the genetics are very, very strong and powerful. And how important is it to you to really hear whatever it is in your family, your continuing family, my family, your family from before, the families you create at work, to really hear what they need and expect of you in terms of consistency of mood, that thing you talked about, kindness. How important is it to you to make those relationships working relationships? Instead of just saying, well, I mean, I have these friends and that's great, and I have these friends and it's not so great and it's okay. How important is it to you in the areas of people who they have significant roles in your life?
The only conflict in any of my several families are brought on by status. And either the status that the outside world, gives them, or the status they adhere to themselves in how they deal with people. And it's all about status and self-worth or self-loathing. And it's all about that. And that is brought on, that is magnified by show business. So, and I've been in show business. I've been making movies now for 45 years. I'm not much older than that. So I've been making movies my whole adult life. And before that, I did plays in TV, my whole adolescence and childhood. So it's all I've ever done. So I've never looked at it as anything like special. It just is what I do. It's like if you're a ball player, it's what you do. I'm a ball player. You're not the ball player. I'm an actor. That's what I do. But so I've never had a second glance at what it means or doesn't mean to others. In fact, my wife and I had this conversation yesterday. I forget I'm famous until somebody says, "Oh, it's you," and I go, "Oh, yeah, it's me." And what I'm pointing out is I'm not confused or have an issue over status, because I've always been what I am. But people do have issues with it. People compete with it. People are competitive with you over what? Why? And so taking a long way to answer this. Am I answering it?
Yeah, but I don't agree with you.
Okay, help me.
I think largely the book is a cautionary tale, because the truth is, if you have mood swings, and a lot of that was very present during. Eric speaks very openly about his years with drugs, and some of these drugs are pretty innocuous on the face of it. Some of them over-the-counter sleep meds, antihistamines. Certain things really hit people's chemistry very wrong and can cause this kind of, brooding negativity that can become it's spiky. Marijuana, I think, is way more potent in terms of mood swings than we give it credit for. And I don't think any of this has to do with status or anything. I think most...
No, you understand what I'm saying. That's another issue what you're talking about.
Okay, so I think that sometimes if you flare at somebody a couple of times, they're gun shy, and they're going to be waiting for the next time. And it literally spoils like spoiled milk.
You're talking about behavior, and I was talking about events.
Right, yeah, I'm talking about behavior. And I'm just saying, I think there can be, as much as we don't change, I think there can be a commitment, a recognition that it's behaviors that can undermine some relationships. And that at a certain point, at a certain age, you can say, you know what, even if we don't see each other frequently, I need to fix this. I need to make this person feel safe around me. And I think that's especially now that families are they're created in all kinds of different ways, and you can start a family and not know each other.
Well, we have no choice but to now accept the blended family, because all families are blended.
Yeah. But I think that there's an importance. I think that one thing that Eric arrived at in writing the book was the importance of making it feel safe to be around him. I mean, it does feel really, really funny to just go on and on and on about yourself, because I don't know any famous people who feel famous. It's something you can't kind of wrap your head around. So you're just there, and then suddenly you're spilling your guts, and then suddenly you're saying, please buy my guts. I just spilled them for you. And why would anybody be interested? But there are some really universal cautionary tales in here. Don't you think so, honey? I mean, do you think that, or do you not even realize what it'd be like to read it if you weren't you?
Sam said to me, have you got anything that goes through your life that's always been negative? And that's where we stumbled onto this.
Huh.
Because it's always been an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's basically driven all my behaviors.
Yeah.
Up until her, and then it started to alter. What, honey?
And I think we're going to get to hear some of your questions soon. Am I right about that?
Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So nice of you. It's my first book.
When you were doing Suits, were they still experts, or when did you notice the transition?
That's one of the hardest jobs I ever had. You know why? All those characters talk in monologues. They talk in speeches. Okay, so you go home, you learn your lines. You show up on the set, you're ready to go. I did my homework. They hand you a rewrite every 10 minutes of a brand new speech. You're like, oh my God. Gabriel, the lead in that night, would just sit and cry and learn these speeches. What was the question?
Were they experts?
They were not experts.
What? On Suits? Are you crazy?
They weren't legal experts.
No, not experts. You mean when you talked about expert filmmakers?
The filmmaker. I thought you were talking about the characters. They were great. Look at the show. It's a TV show that looks like a movie. It's an incredible situation. I thought you were talking about the characters, and they're all a wreck. I loved them. They were fantastic.
What is the most surprising thing about being famous?
Well, you do very little changing in the process of becoming famous. You do very little personal changing. You don't really change. But everybody around you thinks you're going to, so they treat you as if you have. So you kind of or in a place where you can't behave any way at all or it's wrong. So you just have to kind of blend into the woodwork for a while. Yeah, it's not fun. It's weird because everybody thinks you're going to be different, and you're not. You're just at the mercy of fame. But being famous, let me add this, being famous is so much fun, except in airports and airplanes. Because everybody has a camera, and they're all going to use it, and they're all in an airport and airplane, and you can't go anywhere. So, but besides that, being famous is great.
Any interesting stories from King of the Gypsies, your first film, and how you got that?
How I got it, or a story that's interesting about it?
Your choice.
I got it through a whole bunch of auditions and a screen test. But the interesting story is this. I've been working for 3 weeks in day shoots. It's my first night shoot. Ooh, I show up at 5 o'clock. I'm in my trailer. About 5:30, I get a knock on my door. Mr. Hayden would like to talk to you. Sterling Hayden. He's playing my grandfather. If you don't know who he was, he played the police captain in Godfather 2 who actually breaks Al Pacino's jaw. That's Sterling Hayden. Okay, he's playing my grandfather. He sends for me. I go over to the trailer, knock on the door. Come in. Open the door. Hashish smoke. I walk in. He's smoking a pipe. Have a seat, young man. I have a seat. Do you get high? I've been known to, yeah. Want to get high? No, I can't get high and work. Why not? Because I can't talk when I get high. Oh, okay. This just really happened. Well, I can talk fine when I'm high. Anyway, what scene are we doing tonight? I said, scene 87. I know the goddamn number. What happens? Oh, my God. I'm so scared. So I tell him, it's a big scene. He goes, kind of a pivotal scene, huh? I said, yeah, it is. Well, how are your improvisation, young man? I'm okay. Oh, good. That's what we're doing. And so we did improvisation all night long. It's a great scene. It's a scene in the movie King of the Gypsies where he recaptures me and he throws me in the back of a car and he tells me I have to come back to the family. And Sterling Hayden, one of my favorite people in the history of people.
By the way, can I add something?
You weren't there. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've heard you tell a story a lot of times, so let me tell you. No, but this I happen to know because I'm an actress, but I'm also a casting director. Because some of us do both, and one of the people in the audience does both. Anyway, they were going after name talent. It wasn't like it is now, where you just nobody will put a dime into your movie unless you have names attached already. But they were going after name talent. And Eric really won that role. It pretty much couldn't have happened if it was now. That's what's really interesting. That's how the industry has changed, because it's now really an industry. And screen tests also in those days were a full screen test. You did a scene with a little bit of a set and
Two
some makeup.
scenes. You did 2 scenes.
Yeah, it's not like that at all anymore. So it really, it really was a discovery. And weren't you introducing, didn't they call you, and you were...
And introducing Eric Roberts.
Yeah, just all this. But more importantly, have you seen the TikTok thing from King of the Gypsies? It's unbelievable that today, a million years later, there's some crazy thing on TikTok with like 25 million views of a bunch of his scenes from King of the Gypsies.
It just went up because of Dancing with the Stars. And some fan got hip.
So there you go. I mean, the industry is wild. It's pretty crazy right now.
It's
and that's what Eric
famous.
means about, it's not exactly experts. There's a lot of luck involved and happenstance, right?
I had a random question, more industry related, thinking over all the time since you started, but since I haven't read the book yet, what was the up and down effect from when you started to now dealing with managers and agents in the industry? Great question. Yeah, how did it change? Because it has changed every 10 years.
Oh, dude, it's completely other world. Poor agents. Oh, man.
Poor agents?
Well,
Okay.
you don't need agents now. You don't. I mean, their job is. Obsolete. Yeah, it's obsolete. That's the word for it. And they just. Yeah. Now all you have to do is what's that?
Okay.
What's that
It's
thing?
lucky you don't have to do it.
What's that thing?
Okay, I'll explain a little.
What's it called, though?
It's Actors Access. but-
Actors Access, that's
yeah.
all you need.
Okay, but listen, my mom used to also say, never lose contempt for your agent. So we've all always hated agents. I mean, they're always not doing enough. They wait for incoming calls. They only represent
Here's
stars.
a story about an agent. You never heard an 8-year-old boy or girl ever say, I'm going to go out and be an agent. You never heard that. What happens is they want to be an actor or an actress or producer or director, and they fail. They become agents by default. So they aren't happy people, and they're hearing us bitch about, we need this and we need that, and so they don't like us. As well, you can see why.
I have more sympathy for them than he does, but it is very important to be proactive and to just submit yourself like crazy, make your own movies, promote them. The most important thing to learn to do is promotion. I think the confusion came when a lot of representatives forgot who represents whom, and I remember a very prominent manager giving me a list of all the things she's turned down on behalf of Meg Ryan, and I thought, that was really stupid. Why are you proud of that? That's not actually good. But it was her calling card, and it had nothing to do with Meg. She was not representing Meg. Meg was representing her, and it got a little weird.
So I saw one of these, clickbaity type articles on Facebook a while ago that was like, you'll never guess, which actor has been in more movies than any other actor or whatever. And then when I clicked on it, it was you. So I don't know if you were aware of that or if you've seen that, but no, you haven't seen that? Okay.
No.
Apparently, I'm assuming they're going by like IMDb listings, whatever. So apparently you've been in more films than any other actor. So I was just, I'm sure that's not something you were specifically going for, but what do you think of that, achievement?
Every little bit helps. I think it's great. I think it's really unimportant and really fun. Yeah.
We didn't know about that particular one, but we knew there was some Guinness Book of World Records. I guess there's some voice actors who have more, and definitely nobody was going for that. But there was a point when you're just like, this is work. Work is important. You got to take care of your family. And we just that was it. We just started working. And then it became crazy, but we didn't know about that one. That's a good one. Wow.
Is there anyone that you'd like to work with that you haven't so far, or any type of project that you want to do?
Well, there are many people. She can name the actresses for me, but there are many. There's so many good actors, and these days they don't get to work in the kind of good stuff I got to work in. They got to do a bunch of crap, and I feel. If I name names, I'll leave somebody out, and I don't want to do that.
How about directors that you want?
Well, of course, I want to work with Soderbergh, like I Want to Breathe, yeah. And
Robert Schwartzman just made a great film.
yeah,
Noah Baumbach, who I worked with.
we just saw Robert Schwartzman's. Oh my God, it's an amazing movie.
The list grows. You'd think you'd be checking things off, and we need to publish a list because we actually have one typed and printed. Put it out there. So yeah, we got to put it out there. You're absolutely
Okay,
right.
I'm gonna take you up on that, and I'm gonna put it on my website.
Yeah,
I'll
you
make
have
a lot of
website,
people
but I
mad
know
for
what you mean.
you.
We'd love to work with Nicholas Guest. I don't know if we've ever worked with him before, but we love him as an actor
Yeah.
very much.
Hi, Eric.
You're so lucky.
Sorry. So I first saw Runaway Train when I was a kid in the 80s on VHS, and I'm just wondering, was that movie as exciting to make as it was to watch? Because, it was just beautiful. It was filmed in Alaska, I know, and it was just, the cinematography is amazing, and I'm just wondering if you enjoyed or
I
comment
love
on-
that question because nobody asked that question. That was the hardest, most fun movie I ever made. And because they sent us all to Montana on Valentine's Day. We all arrived in Montana for about a week and we watched it thaw. So the producers say, well, it takes place in Alaska, we go to Alaska. So we shipped the whole crew, the whole cast up to Alaska, and we made a movie where we had 30 miles of track, and we went back and forth for 4 weeks. I hate trains. Now, anyway, it was the hardest movie I ever made. It was the coldest movie I ever made. The only thing that really saved me where my behavior was perfect was because John Voight was so angry all the time that I didn't have to complain. He was so mad. He was so angry all the time. Because, you know, they would do things like, they'd take us, okay, we had this shot, we'd drop you in the snow so no tracks. So we're gonna drop you from a helicopter. And then you have to run a quarter of a mile from here to here and we'll pick you up. Okay, cool. They drop us, they vanish. We stand there.
Oh, God.
John's mad. So it was like that.
I would like to.
Did I answer your question? Good. It was a fun-ass movie to make, but hard.
You have played some really twisted dudes. I am curious of how you get into the role and also how do you get out when it's over?
Okay. I've learned how to answer this question just in this past week. I've been asked this question for 35 years. But here's the answer to it. I play those guys well because I can look at them. Like I can see my hand. I can look at them just like that. I can see everything about them. And then I play them. The guys that are like me, I can't play very well. I can't play nice, easygoing, ineffective guys very well without being just boring. and because I am one of those guys. And so that's why I can play those guys, because I can see them. They're like a painting to me. I can see it, I can study it, I can understand it, I can accept it, I can play it. I don't take them home. The only part that I really got stuck with was the Pope of Greenwich Village, because when I was offered that part, he was a different kind of a character, and I changed him. And so I was offered that part in January of that year. I got sent the script and the book, and it said, pick a part, Paulie or Charlie, and I picked Paulie. So from January to August, I was living Paulie. I lost all of 30 pounds, and I permed my hair, and I talked like that every day, all day long, blah, blah, blah. And I just lived that guy. I became that guy because that guy would be so easy to do a caricature. And because that kind of guy had been done as a caricature so many times, I was going to kill it. I was going to make him breathe. And I think I did. Did that answer your question? Sure. Cool. Who else? Come on, be brave.
I always thought you're a very sexy, talented, great actor. And you scored by finding this amazing woman. But what I wanted to ask is, you know, I used to watch as a little kid, and I'm from Israel. We used to buy those journals about the movies and all that, and used to fall in love with all those great divas and actors, and also American, not only European, not only Brigitte Bardot, but also American. What happened? I don't see any of them these days, you know? Where did all the divas, sexy actresses disappear, all the very good actors? I'm talking about younger ones. I'm not talking about Robert De Niro. What happened?
If I was in charge, nothing would have happened. I'm not in charge.
No, seriously,
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. What happened was, I think it was the internet. We just got too much of everything, and so it stopped being special. I don't know.
I think they stopped developing people. A lot of casting they cast influencers because they want to be sure that an audience is walking in with the talent they put on screen. It doesn't work, but they haven't figured that out yet. And so you're getting people whose talent is completely undeveloped, so you're not getting that magic. As a casting director, you're often not even allowed sessions where you see unknown people. It's just a fishing expedition for people who are already established. So I feel you there. You're absolutely right.
I'm a big fan of the film Star 80. So I was wondering if you just had any stories about working with Bob Fosse, who is a notoriously intense director, and also I feel like that movie was very prophetic about a lot of things about the toxic nature of fame. And if you have any thoughts on sort of where things are now versus as related to the movie.
Cool question, cool ass movie, huh? Well, I got one great Bob Fosse story for you about working with him. I'm doing a scene one day in my underwear with the guitar, nothing else. And I fuck up the song, excuse me. I mess up the song. And I say, cut. You don't say cut on a Fosse set unless you're Fosse. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I made a mistake. I'm starting over. He goes, God damn it, come here. And he walks across the soundstage at Zoetrope. It's a huge soundstage. It's about half the size of a football field. And he walks, come here. I get up, I'm in my underwear. I got the whole crew behind me, and I walk over there. What? He goes, look at me. I'm looking at you. God, look at me. I'm looking at you. What's up, dude? Okay. You're playing me if I weren't successful. Do you understand? And I did. And I started actually walking like him on the way back to the set. I watched how he walked and said, I'm going to start walking that way for Paul. And yeah, I just basically played him in the movie from that day on. And we'd already shot for 3 weeks. But we had 5.5 months to go.
It was really prophetic in terms of everything, Me Too and the whole fame addiction and that whole, desperation. It's, we're understanding it a little better now, but psychologically to understand that whole dynamic and what happened there is really important because that kind of thing is still going on.
Every day.
Yeah, but it's an incredible movie, incredible portrayal. Can I just say one more thing? In answer also to your question about playing those characters, yeah, Eric doesn't take anything home except books. He's an avid reader, and if he's reading a book where something disturbing is happening, he can't shake it. It's very interesting. It never happens with a script, and never happens with a character. But one thing, he's in a new movie, actually we both are, with Kathy Moriarty and Mina Suvari called Beyond the Rush. He plays really one of the most horrible people he's ever played. But a lot of it came from, he was supposed to be eating pistachios, right? But he won't eat nuts. So it was raisins or something. But when these people were telling him how much he had harmed them, he just kept eating. And I think the eating, the minimizing of their pain, was a tunnel into the character. So sometimes he will use some external something that kind of comes to him. He doesn't manufacture it, it just kind of comes to him. And then that's the way in. And
see, I would never tell you that, but that's a fact.
It's really important. Some people are actors.
It would never even occur to me to tell them that, but that's a fact. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts.
You're welcome.
Thanks to both of you for coming to Live Talks Los
What
Angeles.
a pleasure this was. Thank you.